That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And tonight we have a score to settle with A Score to Settle, a new Nicolas Cage film that opened August 2nd, 2019, directed by Shawn Ku.
Yes. So first I have to say I'm a huge Nicolas Cage fan.
Oh, you're back.
I'm a big fan of his over-the-top performances.
Oh, yes.
So much so that I'm currently carrying around a Nicolas Cage backpack.
That was
It was a very lovely gift.
A well-researched gift from somebody.
So I think if a person is not into Nicolas Cage's more recent performances, they probably won't like this film. I really liked it because of it.
I think always his performances have always.
Oh, sure. But I think as he's gotten older, the films aren't as... I think his original films, that he was known for being kind of kooky.
Yeah.
The overall film was more sort of unique and...
Well, that's back when Hollywood was different. When he started out, there wasn't, independent film and all of these low-budget films that he does. But I think... He
can do no wrong in my eyes. He is in a lot of shitty movies. And this movie's not...
It's not the worst.
It's not the worst. I enjoyed it, but 99% because of him.
I mean, I feel like he reads a script, and if there's a scene where he knows he can scream and shout and let it all out, like he's in.
And they have his bank account to do direct deposit.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I do the same thing. So this film is about Nicolas Cage's character, Frank.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a generic bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like they
did something wrong.
They do bad stuff. Drugs, guns, who knows. And the movie starts with young Nicolas Cage. And I guess they're roughing up some guy.
Well, he's swinging a baseball bat, and this older man that's either a father or mentor is teaching him how to swing, and it's oh, what a sweet thing. And then it's you realize they're
torturing some man for info.
Yeah.
Anyhow, the police come and Nicolas Cage takes the rap for the older gentleman, who we presume is the leader of this
of the pack.
Leader of the pack. So he spends nearly 2 decades in prison.
Mm-hmm.
So very quickly we're introduced to Nicolas Cage being released from prison, and his son picks him up from prison.
Yes, played by Noah Legros, who I was trying to look up. I'm pretty sure it's James Legros' son, who was a notable indie actor from the 80s and 90s. He's still in a lot of stuff, actually, but kind of looks like him. I'm pretty sure it is.
He's a handsome kid. I could see him being
he's in some notable television series.
I could see him being in some TV series on a cable channel with a lot of attractive young people.
In fact, I bet he is, because he was in Bart Freundlich's film Wolves, and that's Julianne Moore's, and they're all related. They're all thick as thieves. But anyway.
So there's so much happening. But let's run with the plot really quickly. Okay. So then his son picks him up, who hasn't seen him in nearly 20 years. Obviously, the relationship is strained because Nick Cage has not been fathering his son. So he tries to spend a week with him, getting to know him, but really what he wants to do is exact revenge on Max, who was the leader of the pack, who he had agreed to take the fall for in exchange for him taking care of his son, Joey.
Didn't do that.
But he didn't, because Joey ended up being a drug addict. So the bulk of the film is them relating to each other, getting into trouble because Frank, Nicolas Cage's character, is still trying to get back at Max. He hires a prostitute.
Who immediately falls in love with him.
We'll talk about all that. But I feel like I feel like we shouldn't say the twist yet.
Okay, we can.
We should wait. There is a big twist. So first, I just want to go through some of the notes I made. First off, the opening scene with the baseball bat and torturing the guy was actually really intense. It made me uncomfortable just because I don't like seeing people get hit in the head. But also, I really liked it because that guy who played younger Nicolas Cage looked just
he did look
like a really attractive, because when Nicolas Cage was young, he wasn't a looker. But this guy is I thought he was very good looking.
You're saying that implying that he became one. But... Sorry.
Anyway, I cannot find this actor's name. It's not an IMDb. I tried looking him up, but I think he looks like an attractive young Nicolas Cage. So I already want to see more things from him. But My first question when Nicolas Cage gets released from prison is like, how does that actually work? Because they just let his ass out on like a country road
in the middle of the
night. Yeah. And then we see in the distance his son walking towards him. And
like out of nowhere,
like out of thin air. And then they walk presumably all night long, because we see the next scene is them having breakfast or like early lunch at a food truck. So that was interesting, and definitely some foreshadowing there.
My first note is immediately after the opening scene, he's in a doctor's office right before he's let out of prison.
Yeah.
So they're explaining that Nicolas Cage suffers from something called fatal sporadic insomnia.
That's right.
And the doctor telling him, if you don't sleep, you will die.
He's released from prison because of this condition.
Yes.
So he's released from prison because he can't sleep.
And if he doesn't sleep, he's going to die.
So for all you inmates.
But that only pops up so frequently. This is no like the Machinists.
Okay, so my next note is when he picks, I thought their initial interactions were very like homoerotic, because it's like Nicolas Cage is like an older gentleman, and then his son Joey is like an attractive younger, 20-something. And when he sees him, he takes him straight to this like nice hotel and wants to spend like a romantic weekend with him.
Yeah, basically.
Because he likens it to the weekend he spent with his mom, Joey's mom, his son's mom there. And then he refers to him as being sexy. He refers to him as having beautiful blue eyes. He wants to dress him up. It was a very pretty woman.
Oh yeah.
Even the scene where like his son gets undressed, so he's just in his underwear.
Oh yeah. That was
and then the way Nicolas Cage's character looks at him and then kind of like turns around and then looks back and then walks towards him and sits on the bed and wants to show him a bat. Like this obviously phallic symbol. That was very interesting.
And also like when what's that guy's name? Trip, this seedy man approaches
Trip the Pimp
approaches them from out of nowhere in a parking lot while they're all dressed up after a fancy dinner trying to like ply his trade. And Nicolas Cage's response is something like, I'm just trying to have a nice night with my son.
Oh, so out of control. I loved it. Where do we want to go from here? Do we want to just say what the twist is?
Sure. Yeah.
So the twist is Joey died many years ago.
As a crackhead kid.
So it's like the Sixth Sense. Because we don't know if he's a ghost or he's just a figment of his imagination.
We don't know.
But he's not real. He's dead. So, obviously knowing that and rewatching the film or thinking about it, there are so many signs that, it's very Sixth Sense to me, like Sixth Sense in reverse.
But there's so many sequences where nobody, like even Trip the Pimp, when he's like, I'm just trying to have a nice dinner with my son. Well, you're standing up here alone then, I guess.
That's true. But yeah. So, my next note is Benjamin Bratt is in the film. I had to look it up because Benjamin Bratt and Nicolas Cage are the same age. They're both 55 years old.
Oh, okay.
And Benjamin Bratt I'll be happy to look like him at 55.
Yeah,
and Nicolas Cage looks like he is literally held together with bubble gum. So
there's a scene where it's a flashback. So it's him 19 years previous with his dead wife, who's like riding him in a car. And there's like a shot of his face, and it's like, ooh.
I know, poor Nick.
Why are these two beautiful? And the prostitute he picks up is just like totally into him immediately. Like wants to have a relationship. You're not like the others. That kind of jazz.
Which is interesting.
Well, because
Simone.
He seems like.
So he drives off with the prostitute, and there's a scene where like her scarf floats in the air. What did you think that meant?
It reminded me of that terrible film, The Danish Girl. There's a scarf in the end that ruins that movie.
There's also a scene where she's riding him? He buys a brand new Corvette in cash. He spends a ridiculous amount of money. I think.
Well, because he goes and digs it up.
So right after he gets released from prison, he and his son go to his old like home or stomping grounds, and he digs up this bag that has like $300,000 in it. So he goes on this shopping spree. buys a Corvette. He's in the car having sex with the prostitute, I believe, when she takes out the vitamin E cream and rubs his like bullet scar. I thought that was like he's had that scar for 2 decades.
Yes.
One application of some old bootleg ass cream is not going to get rid of the scar. But
the depiction of women is problematic.
Oh, for sure. But
I mean, granted, it's Trip the Pimp who's comparing them to feral cats who spook easily, but also just that Nicolas Cage is not a head turner, and these are...
He really isn't. He really isn't. But you know,
I mean... for those reasons, I guess.
But. Hey, I'd go out with him. Well, Nicolas Cage specifically. But, okay, so he and his son kind of get into bump heads when the son realizes that Nicolas Cage's main goal or agenda is to, like, exact revenge on Max. So he gets upset. Nicolas Cage ends up going to a massage parlor to find some guy who I didn't understand. He was going around trying to find some of his old roll dogs to see if they knew where Max was.
Yeah.
So one of the guys, he goes to the massage parlor, and I don't understand why he was so aggressive with him, because he strolls into the massage parlor with like an AK-47.
Oh, that's right.
And that man whoops his ass.
Named Dragon?
Whoops his
Dragon?
Yes, that man whoops his ass.
They don't call him Dragon for his tattoo.
Right, because implying he has a big penis. So the thing that made me laugh is that fast forward to when Nicolas Cage, there's a scene later in the film where Nicolas Cage calls for the prostitute again. Mm-hmm. And the pimp sends the wrong prostitute because they all have fake names. Mm-hmm. So he says, I don't want her, I want the woman I had originally.
Well, and he's also
pimp shows up.
He's also having one of his
insomnia spells.
Sporadic.
Yes. So when the pimp shows up to strong arm Nicolas Cage for not paying for the prostitute, Nicolas Cage gets his ass together. Mm-hmm. So I'm so confused how he got his ass whooped by the guy at the massage parlor, but then he got Trip the Pimp together. So that didn't work well for me. I didn't quite understand his skill set.
Trip the Pimp sounds like a Peaches song.
I think it sounds like a great movie title.
There are moments of like dialogue that are so dumb that Nicolas Cage just spins into.
Oh, he delivers. He really delivers. I think you texted me this scene and I actually wrote it down.
Oh, yes.
There's a scene at the end when he confronts Benjamin Bratt at his daughter's wedding. And Benjamin Bratt he says, like, I don't understand why we need to squash this beef.
No, he takes his daughter and he said, it's okay, his beef is with me.
And Nicolas Cage goes on a rant about beef that literally...
Beef?
I'm going to have to find, like...
Oh, no, I took a
video.
Yes.
Oh my God.
It's beautiful. Clip.
I mean, he earned his paycheck for that scene.
But there's another scene with a prostitute where he says, Jesus Christ, I screw everything.
So good. He's so good.
And then he starts singing, I'm Always Chasing Rainbows.
Yes, there's a piano. Like he's sitting at the piano singing and playing and like basically like sing-talking his dialogue to Benjamin Bratt.
Yes. That was improvised.
Well, you know what? He deserves an award for that.
Okay, the other interesting thing about this is it's directed by Shawn Ku. It's his second film. You have seen Shawn Ku's first film.
Which is?
Beautiful Boy. It was the year I dragged you to the Toronto Film Festival.
Okay.
2010.
I don't recall that.
It's the one where Maria Bello and Martin Sheen are married and they have that kid that goes on a shooting spree, kills all those people.
That sounds familiar to me.
It actually was quite good, and I think it won some awards on the festival circuit. But that was 9 years ago, and he's done some television, I think, and this is his comeback. Interesting. Oh, the poster for this movie too is.
Well, I'll post. Definitely post that.
But it was written by John Stewart Newman, who got his early start in Days of Our Lives, and also did the Get Shorty television reboot, and a Taraji P. Henson movie you love called Proud Mary.
Oh my God. The person who directed this directed Proud Mary? No. The person who wrote this?
The person that directed it directed Beautiful Boy.
Okay, well, the writer I'm not going to shit on because Proud Mary, it's not the script that's the problem.
No.
It's the production quality and the acting and the wigs,
part of the problem.
and the fashion and the fitness.
I'd say the script is the big part of this could have been.
Well, this movie, I enjoyed it. It's entertaining solely for Nicolas Cage, but that's good enough for me. I did have one final thought about the story. When Nicolas Cage finds out, at the end of the film, he does find Max. Max is not dead as he was led to believe. Max is in a coma.
For 15 years.
For 15 years. So the fact that he didn't take care... Max did not honor his word to Frankie. He was not able to because he was bedridden. So once he realizes that, he's like deflated. But prior to that, because he knew like his life was over, like there's nothing to live for, he gave all of his money to the prostitute. So my question is, when Frankie realized that Max didn't lie to him and that he's not the cause of his son's death, do you think he wanted his money back from Simone? Because I would have snatched that back.
I would have said, like, I need a little back.
Yeah, I need a few bands back.
Or like, you love me so much, why don't we just get married?
Right.
But another question I have is, so he's a young man, so he had a child at a very young age. Yeah,
the timing is a little off to me, but I don't know if the fact that his son is like an apparition kind of explains like the gap in what I think. With
Noah like Gross playing himself in actual crackhead flashbacks that Nicolas Cage. I don't know.
There are issues, but I think, hey, I'm not a great writer, but if I had a script someone wanted to make and I needed someone to send it over the top, I'm calling Nicolas Cage first.
I've seen a lot worse Nick Cage films.
But he gives a very consistent performance generally, and I'm into it usually 100%. He's good for what he's getting paid for. Anyway, I would give this film...
The soundtrack is terrible. Very schmaltzy.
I guess if you like Nicolas Cage, I would give it 3 out of 5 stars. If you don't, I would give it 1.5 stars. What would you give it?
1 out of 5.
Oh wow!
But it's not good.
It's entertaining.
Seen worse, but yeah, it's entertaining. Maybe 1.5 because Hobbs and Shaw I gave 1 to, and that it's a lot more entertaining than that.
It's more creative.
Yeah.
Anyway,
bye.